afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening. Jeff, how you doing, my friend? Welcome
Doing
back
pretty
on.
good.
It's great to get into chat because we've been at First Response Pest. We have been so busy, and
Yes.
we wanted to jump on. We haven't had the time to be able to jump on and do more.
Been a couple of
but
crazy weeks.
it's been, and we're going to talk about that really because we kind of want to give our customers an idea about the changes in the weather and how bad it's really been in California for pests, and the weather that we're seeing, the massive influx of pests, and kind of a little bit about their expectations.
Oh,
So
it's been
what
almost
have you found?
biblical.
I know. I
That's
was
the
going to
best way
say.
to put it.
What have you found lately? What's been the biggest issue going on in your area now?
So I'll tell you, it's been two things, and they're the two main things we get called about normally anyway, but I mean, they're just amplified, very, very amplified from what we normally see. I mean, I guess you could say we've been kind of spoiled. The last 3 or 4 summers have been mild in comparison. This one kicked off very, very strong, and it's been staying strong. And so ants infiltrating the structures is a big one. And, the average layperson always says, well, I sprayed them with Raid. And then 2 days later, they popped up in another place. I sprayed them with Raid again. And, I'd say, oh, gosh, you really didn't make a dent in the colony. That's the problem. We got to get some bait on these guys or, some sort of a transfer product that's slow acting and non-repellent. So that way they get it back into the colony. We get the real troublemakers here because you're just killing expendable workers. And unfortunately, I always liken it to whack-a-mole, the old arcade game whack-a-mole. I said, no, that's fun. You hit one gopher, another one pops up. You hit that one, and then another one pops up. And, it's a fun arcade game. But when it's ants inside your house, it's not so fun anymore. It's really maddening.
Let's talk about that, Jeff, because you said something there that they're using Raid and they're coming back again. Now we know what's happening, but our customers don't know what's happening. So they don't realize that colonies split. Let's talk a little bit about that because you can't unless you're baiting them and killing the colony. What they're doing, I mean, it's just surface level stuff.
Oh yeah, it's just surface level. They're making it worse, really. And they say, hey, how can they have gotten in here? We didn't see any trailing outside. Well, ants tunnel under the soil, and let's face it, the soil's being beaten on by the sun. Air temperature outside is 110, 112. That soil's getting very hot, so they're going to move to cooler soil. Well, where's the soil cooler? Going to be right underneath your slab, and of course, those pipes that come in that supply everything, the incoming pipes, the outgoing pipes, well, they all travel right up through the slab into the walls, and they supply all your bathroom, your kitchen, your laundry area, everywhere you get water in the house. So, they have their run of the place at that point. So that colony nest could be located underneath the concrete. It could be located inside of a wall void, areas we wouldn't be able to get a direct hit with a spray and wipe out the whole colony. So, and they don't realize what's going on behind the scenes. And I tell them, all the time, I say, it's probably a good thing we can't see what's going on the underside of that drywall. But we know what's going on the other side of that drywall. We know because this is, it's our job to know. So
it's your job. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. And I said, if you saw what was going on back there, I think you'd be freaked out even more. And
they would, because they would see multiple colonies because we don't, there's not just one colony. They're splitting off. Right,
they're splitting off.
There's multiple colonies all over the place, and let's face it. I mean, we've known even since biblical times, ants are incredibly intelligent creatures. I mean, you only need to watch National Geographic in the jungles when we talk about ants. I mean, it is amazing.
Yes. Oh yeah, absolutely. Just like you said, amazing. Just how industrious they are and how, I mean, you want to talk work ethic. They never take a break, ever.
No, I know.
I mean, they're just built
They don't
for
go on
this.
holiday.
No holidays, no vacations, no weekends. They just keep working away. And, that's the thing. They're working against us. So we have to, kind of know our enemy, so to speak, and use what we know about them against them. So, that's why I love baits so much. I mean, I've, gotten a couple of different, gel baits. And when they start hitting on that, I always tell people, I get excited. I tell them, hey, you know what? We basically won the battle. Now, step 2 is the easy part. We wait and we let them take the bait. and we let
Yeah.
them take it home and we let them feed everybody. I said, now if you get tired of looking at this in a couple of hours, don't come and spray them with Raid, because now we're back to square one. Just let this happen behind the scenes. Let them take that bait. Let them feed the whole family. I said, that's how we win. And that's how we know. And I've got one so far that holds the record: 7 straight years between an ant flare up inside. And it was 7 years ago that we did a very successful baiting campaign, and they've managed to stay on the whole time. And it just so happened on the morning of their regular service, they discovered ants in their house. And I got a text and they said, "Hey, I'm so glad it turns out you're coming out today. When you get here, would you mind? There's some ants that showed up inside." So I immediately said, "Please don't spray them. Leave them like they are. I'd really like an active trail to bait." And they said, "Well, they're going for the a bowl of pet food." I said, "Absolutely, leave everything as it is if you can. We'll see you within the next couple of hours. You're on. We're about 4 stops away from you. But if you can just leave it be, I'll tell you what. I'll get that bait down. We'll get the outside treated." I said, "Now that we know that ants are a problem, we're going to use some non-repellent transfer product that helps our plight even more, and it works compatibly with the bait instead of the repellent products that work against your bait."
Yeah.
And I got there and they had full confidence. They said, "You know what? I just thought about it. The last time this was an issue is when we first called you and first started up. And that was 7 years ago." I said,
Seven
"Wow,
years
was it
ago.
really that long?" And they said, "Yeah." They said it was 2017 when we first had the
Wow.
problem. And that was the last time we've had an ant problem indoors. Now we've seen them out on the back wall. We've seen them, walking the edge of the driveway, but they've never really
Yeah,
been
you're going to
in the
get
last
that.
7
Yeah.
years. And I said, "Man, that's great." I said, "So far, you're the record holder." I said, "Before you, we had somebody go about 4 years. Now, we've also had it on the low end where we've done a successful baiting campaign on a home. And then 6 months later, we're doing another baiting campaign. So it's a little fresher in their minds." And I say, "Hey, listen, just like I instructed you before, let's not spray them with anything. Let me get in there, let me work some bait and kind of solve the problem that way." And they go, "Oh, yeah, no, I remember, that's what you did about 6 months back." But this one remembered after 7 years, and I was actually very impressed. And we got bait down again, and they immediately went for it. So I
That's
mean, bait
and
acceptance is huge.
That's phenomenal, Jeff, because what I kind of want to kind of edify for our customers that's listening out there is it's so important to realize that you can't just start a pest control program, spray it, and then just let it go and think it's done. You've got to keep on top of it, and it's
Yes.
important. And of course, we know that there's many different species of ant in California and
Oh,
odorous
yes.
ants. We got Argentine ants and everyone and carpenter ants, and every one of them have got their own kind of problems. But the people that decide to take it on themselves, "Oh, I've got the pest control coming, but I'll just knock them out with this DIY thing that I just got from Home Depot," and then realize that it makes our job harder because we've got to identify the trails, we've got to bait them, and they haven't baited them because they've just surface killed the top of them. And of
That's
course, we
right.
know that doesn't get it. So it's important that our customers out there realize that when you've got ants, call us in, but leave them so that we can gain the intelligence that we need to hit them.
That's very true. Because we do have the variety pack, like you said. It could be Argentine, it could be odorous house, it could be so many different species of ant that a big one for us out here, and we only come across it. Oh, I want to say maybe 3, 4 times a year are the pharaoh ant, and you don't want to
Oh,
spray
yes.
anything with pharaoh ants. That is the worst ant to treat with a liquid of any sort. I wouldn't even use like an alpine on a pharaoh ant. It's bait,
They're
strictly
big.
bait.
They're big ones.
Oh yeah, and you just don't want to, upset that balance, because they are notorious for budding and splintering into subcolonies, and
Yep.
two colony. It's just exponential. Two becomes four, becomes 16. It just, boom, boom, boom. And so you really want to get on top of those, but you want to make sure you've identified. Oh man, these are pharaoh ants. Let's not spray anything. Let's get a good bait regimen in place and in play. Because that's the only way we're really going to round this corner. And so, like you said, uh, not doing anything, that's ideal. But when some people say I need to take action now, I understand it's going to be tomorrow before you can get out, or maybe the day after tomorrow when you're in the area. What can I do in the meantime? So I tell them, listen, if you can find some over-the-counter, liquid bait or bait gel, but it's got to be a bait. And so there's
Yes.
a couple things that you can find in most of the stores out here, like the Taro liquids or the combat gels. And they're good products, as far as over-the-counter products go.
They work
And
for a minimal. They work for a minimal invasive.
right. And that's what I always tell them. I
But
say, you get that down and you've kind of started the process for us. And
that's it.
in the
Yeah, yeah,
fact
yeah.
of, I say it's a good pre-bait. But then we come and we give them two options. Okay, now you like this stuff. Now, maybe I'll whip out some OptiGuard or Advion gel and say, here, go ahead and have some of this as well, and sort of expedite the process.
That Advion's good. I've seen
Oh,
that.
the
I've
Advion
seen
ant
them
is
take. Oh my
wonderful stuff.
goodness,
Love it.
that's
Yeah, and they
good.
love it. And that's one of the ways we test it, out in the field. We know what we're up against because we put a dab of bait gel down and we just sort of hang back for a minute. And when you see them all lining up at it like a feeding trough, you're like, okay, that's bait acceptance.
Yeah.
We're looking wonderful right now.
Do you think,
And
Jeff?
that's
I'm gonna nerd out here because I know our customers won't understand this, but you and I are going to nerd out a little bit because we know that certain species feed. They're feeding differently. They're attracted to substances differently. Is there any particular bait that's
Oh,
different
I'm
from
sorry to
the?
catch that.
Is there any particular baiting product that is better for one species or another?
So what I've found is lately, I've been working with OptiGuard very heavily with the Argentines. They seem to like that quite a bit.
Because
A lot
I
of
mean, let's face the Argentine ants are a massive problem there. I mean, it's the
yes.
biggest colony in America, really, in that whole area.
Oh yeah. I mean, just from one side to the other, they're just and they work together, and so they're so persistent because they don't war one
Mm.
another, fight one another. They just work as a one cohesive team. So yeah, that's been a
Special
wonderful
forces
thing.
of the ant unit.
Oh yeah, that's for sure. And then the Advion they like as well. So sometimes I'll try one, sometimes I'll try the other. But yeah, the OptiGuard's been working wonderfully on the Argentines. And then I've found that the Advion works pretty well all the way across the board as well. So those are the two that I've been
Right.
sticking with lately. The bait gels, especially in this intense heat, because one of the main motivators for them right now is getting at that moisture.
Mm.
So when you're using a gel, it's got the moisture, it's got the sweets, but it's got that active, and that active is going to eventually kick in once everybody in the colony gets plenty of it through the trophallaxis, and boom, we win. And then we get that long-term relief.
This season, Jeff, have you identified any particular species that is kind of more problematical than another this year?
It's about the same as it's always been. Like I say, just a little more amplified, but more Argentines than anything else.
Mm.
That's always kind of been our number one thing out here. And we've talked about that before. But I'll tell you what really has been problematic lately. And I tell people all the time, from day one, I say, listen, because I've had a few of them. Hey, now that I'm on service, I won't ever see a spider, right? And I go, oh gosh, I wish I could make a guarantee like that. But let me tell
I'm
you a little
laughing
bit
because I
about
know it's
spiders,
coming.
right? And up here in
It's
the
the
high
old
desert,
adage where they're like, I have wasps, I have hornets, I never want to see them. You're like, I can't guarantee flying insects. I mean,
that's
good
right,
God, we can't. It would have to be some kind of biblical revelation that would deal with this. This is just not going to happen. So their
right.
expectations are kind of out of kilter.
Right. And that's when you have to, from day one, kind of manage the expectations and sort of give them a little insight, and I feel it out. Some people want to know about it, and so they'll ask questions. Some people, it's just, I paid you money. I'm good to go. Right. And it's like, well, hold on, you may have questions, but even if you don't, I kind of want to give you a little insight so we know we're on the same page here.
Yeah.
And you don't feel like I didn't do my job right, or I selected the wrong product, or I mean, some people have their preconceptions, and I've had to kind of break through that, where they think company A makes their own brew and company B makes their own brew, and I said, no, we're not chemists. That's the product manufacturer's job. We buy the product, but the product's registered. The product manufacturer has to go through all the EPA stuff. I said, we as an end user company, we don't have that kind of ability to sit there and try out formula after formula and figure it out and R&D it and get it right. So that's a big company doing all of that, and they're doing it to a science, they've got a whole R&D team. I mean, there's a lot. So we know certain products that we buy and use out there have their strengths, have their weaknesses, and we know from experience, like for instance, somebody saying my main problem is ants. Well, maybe I won't go ahead and barrage the exterior with something high repellency right off the bat, because that could make
Yes.
things worse. Maybe that's
Absolutely.
when we'll put down an alpine or a termidor, something that's going to be a transfer product, non-repellent, maybe a little slower acting, until we know the answer in check. Then, of course, the spider complaints come, and they say, I don't know, but it just seems like the spider problem's gotten worse, and I have to take into consideration they don't know what we know, so I have to say, well, listen, I can explain why that is. It's been unreasonably hot. We've been under excessive heat warning for 3 weeks straight. That's going to make them very, very active. But also in the high desert, we're going to get wind on a daily basis, and that's how they travel. They balloon, they kite. Um, so
And
they'll
also,
get
Jeff,
there. Yeah,
I think we need to educate people on the natural world and on spiders, and how it's very difficult to control spiders, right?
right.
Because the way that their physiology and their biology is and their exoskeleton is, it's not like hitting off a normal bug. It's not like hitting an ant or baiting an ant and baiting a colony.
Correct.
To even to get the spider's not cleaning itself to get the contact. I mean, it's a kind of knockdown. So people need to understand that you can't just start a pest control program and expect how to have no spiders and have to have no ants and have to know nothing. You've got it's a progressive elimination. It takes a bit of time,
It really
you know,
is. Yes. And,
and it
and I
really is.
have to
And you have
remind
to
people too,
understand that
it's in the name of what
spiders
we
are
do.
hard.
Yeah. Oh yeah. They're very, very hard. And I remind people all the time. I tell them, hey, it's control, not elimination. And I say, there's certain things that can be accomplished. Now, you have product down at your place. It's going to definitely shorten their lifespan significantly. So
Absolutely.
rather than a spider showing up and living 6 months to a year, living its best life, that spider's days are numbered, because they're going to come in contact with the product, eventually ingest the product. And so you may be looking at, somewhere on average 15 days. But we're getting barraged right now. And, things like brush fires are moving things around. Things like the wind are fanning the flames on these
Yeah.
brush fires. But, just the intense heat when we're over 100, over 110, these guys are very, very active, and they're moving. They're moving all over the place. So, I've had a
And
couple
they're
of people
looking to go
say,
to cooler areas. They're looking to go
oh,
to
yeah,
cooler
they're
areas.
going to cooler areas. So, I've had people with awnings in the back. I mean, it's shaded there. Of
Yeah.
course, they want to be in the shade. Um,
It
things like,
reminds me. It reminds me, Jeff. I don't know if you've seen this, but you've seen there's one of the on YouTube. There's I don't know if it's National Geographic or if it's one of the kind of animal channels, but they were talking about the camel spiders. Now I know from when in the military and when we're in the desert and places like that, you have to watch the
oh,
camel
yes.
spiders, and there's a lot of myths about it. But they
Yeah,
say they chase you. And they don't realize that they ain't chasing you. They're chasing the shadow because it's too friggin' hot in the
that's it. That's all
desert.
it is. Yeah, they just want to be in your
And that's
shadow.
what's happening. Yeah, and
Yeah,
that's what's happening in California. It's too friggin' hot and they want to get in.
that's it. And that's why people are finding, a few wandering inside. And I always try to break it down as easy as possible. And I say, well, have you spent much time outside? And they go, well, no, I mean, it's been too hot. And I go, well, I spend all day outside. And, I can tell you, you're absolutely correct. And not only am I spending all day outside, I'm spending all day outside in long sleeves, long pants, because that's the PPE requirement. And
Yeah.
sometimes when we're spraying or applying product, we have to have on gloves as well. And it's already, friggin' hot. And so, and then of course, to make it more fun, let's say somebody calls with bees. Now, the work clothes don't breathe all that well, but a beekeeper suit definitely doesn't either. Now, you need that level of
No.
protection, but yeah, so you're suited up in a beekeeper suit. It's 105. You're just sweating buckets inside that thing. And I said, so, that's the plight of what we go through, and we drink a lot of water, we stay hydrated, we take breaks, we do all the things to keep ourselves safe and to keep, to avoid heat related illness. But the spiders don't really have that luxury. So when they kite or they balloon, they want to be under the awning because it's shaded. It's a little cooler there. Wasps want to build that nest under the eave because, again, it's shaded. They're not in the direct sun because it's even a little bit hot for those guys. And they flourish in the heat, but they don't like it too hot. So, of course, you'll find a gathering of them there. And, in the early morning, they're doing all their bit to build their paper nest and everything like that. But, a paper nest for wasps can spring up in a couple of days. So when you say, oh, you were just here a week ago. Oh, they really do, and they say, oh, you were just here a week ago. Why do I have a wasp nest now? And it's like, well, that could have started, a couple of days after we finished your service. And if they didn't land on any of the treated perimeters around the grounds, of course, being flying, they may not have landed on those surfaces. So, it stands to reason that could happen. Oh, what can I do? And I said, well, there's a few things you can do. We knock them down as a courtesy, but if you have any of that aerosol that shoots a 20-foot pin stream, you'll drop them immediately. That's one trick. I said, or if you hit them with ice cold water off the hose, that's another way to stun them at very least, and let them know they're not welcome there. And they go, what? Really? Just ice cold water? And I go, well, yeah. Think about it. They're out there. It's 109, and you've just dropped them down to 29 degrees. That's going to shock the heck out of them.
It's going to slow them down. And I have to say, ladies and gentlemen, I'd rather be dealing with paper wasp than dealing with any invasive Asian hornets or anything, or yellow-legged hornets like you have down there. I mean, that's Dennis. We spoke about this before in the last chat that we did, but I mean, it's serious that, I'd rather deal with something as simple as that than anything else. And let's talk a little bit, Jeff, about, people's expectations, because sometimes, look, we've just kind of touched on it a bit, but people do have an expectation that the minute they call you, they're going to get rid of their pests, or, which we've also said, that needs a little bit of time. But also they need to realize that this season it's incredibly busy. And there's a lot of pests.
Yes.
And we will get to you as fast as we can, but we may not get to you within your expectation. You might think that we'll be there in 10 minutes, and you have to realize that, yes, you've got a bit of an infestation. We are going to get rid of it. You just have to have a little bit of patience to allow us to get there and look at the situation.
And that's very, very true, and it's come up a couple of times in the last week or so, and it's amazing to me, and it's ground that I've covered with them in the past. I tell them, hey, listen, we're still small, but we're growing, and we're in that growth phase, and eventually there's a vision that we have. I've managed at other companies, in my career, crews of 8 to 10 guys that are each out running their own individual routes. When route density really starts to, come through, and that's just, what do we have? We have several summers of building and growing, and then we get that route density, and then we redraw boundary lines. And of course, we can have a guy who's maybe in the general vicinity 5 days a week, because he's got enough work to keep him busy relatively the whole month, and some wiggle room to put in a call back, put in a new start, and he's still got a little leeway and a little wiggle room in his day, but he's still got enough to keep him busy for, a good 3/4 of a day. So he's got, those standing appointments, and he can get to all of them. And also fit in those emergency calls, as it were, because to those people, I get it. It is definitely an emergency. Now, to compensate for that, because we're a little bit more on the more affordable end than one of those larger companies would be.
Yeah,
I tell them it's a trade-off. Yeah,
it is a trade-off, and they've got to understand that. Small and local is a lot better because you're supporting your local business, and there's more dedication to us as a smaller firm and not a large multinational firm who just look at you as a checkbook or look at you as a monthly fee and don't even take a lot of care in it. At the end of the day, the way that you and I have talked about this many times is, do you want it done right or do you want it done fast?
Right. It's right or it's fast. And that's a great way to explain the trade-off. And that's what I tell them. When we get there, we have a game plan in mind. We're going to assess, of course, and inspect and take a look to make sure, hey, is this the right game plan? Or, go ahead and pivot at that point and go, oh, you know what? Instead, let's go with let's go with this game plan. Because really, we know we both have a vested interest, me as the pest guy and you as the customer, we got the same goal. We want you to,
Yes.
basically be, over that hurdle. So, but we, exactly like you mentioned, if I'm all the way over on the other side of our territory, and you're on one end of the territory and my whole day is booked already on this end of the territory, and
Yeah,
you're
it's
calling
not Star
after,
Trek: The Next Generation where we can materialize just like this.
I
It's
wish we
like,
could, but no, and I had to tell somebody that the other day. And I said, listen, if I could teleport, I'd be there right now. I'd spend 10,
yeah,
15 minutes. I'd get you past this. But I got to tell you, it's going to be an hour and a half drive for me to get from where I'm at to where you're at. And it's an hour and a half each way, which means even if I only need to spend 10 to 15 minutes there to solve your problem, you have to understand I'm notching out 3.5 hours. In the next 3.5
yeah,
hours, right where I'm
and that's what
located,
we
that
have to
represents,
really,
probably 8 to 10 people that I've got to displace now and tell them, hey, sorry, I can't make it to you today. Bob, who's an hour and a half away, needs me right now. Well, it logistically doesn't make any sense. Now, if you're willing to, I can walk you through a couple of things that you can do in the meantime to kind of smooth things over. And then when I can, I'll call the office right away. I'll let them know, hey, go ahead and dispatch me on this day because we're going to be swinging through the area. We're going to be over in that vicinity, and we need to add this one to that day because he really needs some extra attention. To me, and I've had to explain this too to customers when they say, well, we're seeing a lot of spiders. I mean, I'm sorry, but the guy with ants on his counter is going to be a little bit higher priority to me than somebody saying I'm seeing a lot of spiders. You're not the only one.
perfect.
Everybody's seeing a lot of spiders.
It's like it's like triage in a hospital. You go into the
Yeah,
hospital, the person who's just been brought in a gurney who's just been shot is going to be more important to save his life than the person who's sprained an ankle falling
that's
from
right.
their skateboard. And
Right.
you've got to realize, and I think we would say that to potential customers, that
Right.
have in your mind that we're yes, we've got lots of customers that we're serving, but one may have cockroaches that are all over the place that we have to
Yep.
deal with, and you've only got some spiders. And let's face it, spiders are actually good to have around, so we can deal with them a little bit, we can leave them a little bit and deal with the emergencies. We'll always get to you, and we'll always
Yes.
serve you, and we'll always
Yes.
educate you and get you to do things that we think will help you until we get there. Just bear with us.
And it's funny because I've had Ash, our office manager,
Yeah.
also, get licensed so that, it can be explained by the office to the client. Because, if I'm out of signal range, who knows, and I'm out running route, and so I've kind of coached Ash on all the things, and it's funny because Ash had the conversation with one of them and said, well, due to the heat, due to the wind, spiders, are going to be on an uptick. And this year they're a bit amplified. So, bear with us. We can get to you Monday. This was Friday at about noon. And, Friday we were nowhere near them. And, so Ash said, hey, next best thing, we can get to you Monday, which is our next working day.
Yeah.
And we will slide in a visit. And, unfortunately, that was unacceptable to this client. And they said, we're going to have to part ways because you can't be here today. Or come out on Saturday or Sunday. Well, I'm sorry, we're closed on Sunday and Saturday. We already had a project booked, and it was one that we booked well in advance, and we had to get there and get it done because it was, it was for bed bugs. So, what are you going to do? It's somebody's
that's
done all the prep.
important.
That's a
Oh my
big
god!
important
I
one,
mean, the
right?
bed bugs essentially that is a real that's a class one emergency as well, and a
It
very
really is.
expensive thing for people to actually deal with. And so one of the
Yeah.
things then, Jeff, is that we would say to people, and I think I want to make this perfectly clear. Just because when a client turns around and says, well, you can't get to me now, I'm going to have to part waves, that's fine, you can part waves, but don't think
Hmm.
for 1 minute, just because you go to Terminex, that they're going to get to you now. They
Right.
are going
They
to
may not
book
get
you
to you right
in.
now either. Yeah.
No,
And not only
they're going to
that, they're
book you
going to
in
get to you when they get to you, and it's going to cost you more than what we're charging
more.
you. Yeah. And you might get a guy instead of, getting a 24-year veteran, you may get a guy who's only got a couple years in. So he gets there and he goes, oh, wow, I don't see how it's real bad, but I'll just spray and pray. And that's, what do you do? And I mean, I would remember when I was only a year, 2 years in, that's all I did was spray and pray. That was before I really gained much of a repertoire and really learned a lot. So, early on in my career, that's what I was doing. I was walking in cold to a situation. They said, there's ants everywhere. Oh, there's
Yeah.
spiders everywhere. Okay, well, I'll hit all the cracks and I'll hit all the perimeters and, I'll go ahead and brush things down and I should be fine. Well, I learned real fast. Maybe seeking out the nest might help. Maybe educating that client might help. It's funny because Ash said
Perfect.
the same thing about the heat and the wind to this
Yeah.
client. And this client actually got, I don't know, upset by it and said, you know, Jeff gave me that same theory. And I said to myself, well, theory, I mean, if you don't
It's
believe
not a
it, look
theory.
it up. It's not a theory, it's fact.
It's
You know,
fact.
and so I thought, okay, well, maybe when they call around and they get another pest control company and they ask them the question, hopefully they ask them the question, hey, is it true that? And
Yeah.
hopefully they're talking to somebody that can reaffirm it and go, well, no, actually, yeah, that is exactly how it works. That's what happens. And then they can
Yeah.
go, oh, well, he wasn't just trying to get out of doing something. See, a lot of times people nowadays, I've noticed more so lately than ever before, when you're trying to lend them a little bit of insight using the expertise and knowledge you've gained along the way, um, they feel like you're trying to talk yourself out of having to do something. And it's like, no, laziness isn't a factor. We want the same thing, but you have to have reasonable expectations.
Absolutely. And I
Yeah.
think that's really important. And I think it would be also important to recognize, ladies and gentlemen, that if you do go to a big pest control company, people this day and age is it's not easy to get people to work. I mean, you just go to the restaurants, they can't get staff. You go to other jobs there, they
Mhm.
can't get staff. So when they do get staff, the staff are not trained, they're not dedicated. They don't
Right.
understand the entomology of the particular species. They don't understand the life cycle of the species. They've got basic training, and as Jeff's saying, and is spray and pray. You need to
That's it.
really have a bit of experience and to really, and as we said right at the beginning, you just don't knock pests out in one go. You have to keep on top of it. This is why
Yep.
pest control in an area such as we are in California and anywhere else in the United States, it's a constant thing. You've got to keep on top of it because pests come regularly. They don't stop.
Regularly.
And
Yes.
if the conditions are conducive to the surviving and thriving,
Oh,
they're going to
yes.
keep coming.
Yeah. And it's ironic, because again, you mentioned conducive conditions. I thought, immediately flashed in my mind, what does their front yard look like? What does their backyard look like? I'm very
Yeah.
familiar with this house, been there, numerous times over the years. And I'm thinking, okay, well, they're on top of a hill. They've got several trees.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's that. And then, of course, on one of their walls, they've got a lot of foliage. They've got the crawling vine on one of their block walls surrounding their yard. So, okay. And I
Perfect
wonder
environment.
why they have spiders.
Perfect.
All that
And as
foliage,
exactly. And as a friend of
Yeah.
mine once said, if there's two spaces between two things and a spider can find that space and where to anchor, it's going to grow a web. And
It's
people
going to grow
don't
wet.
realize
Yeah.
that when you knock spiders' webs down,
Mhm.
they just put them back up again.
They just put them right back up again. Yeah.
It's control. And this is what we want people to understand. It's
Right.
spider control. It's not eradication. Yes, I
Right.
mean, look, you can take my shoe off and hit a spider and get rid of it, but spiders going to keep coming. And it's like the
Yes.
flying insects. You can't guarantee them. Spiders are very difficult to deal with
Very difficult.
because it's
Yes.
not just you don't bait them, and their exoskeletons don't take on so much of the.
And it takes all kinds. I talked to one
Oh
client. They
God,
say,
yeah.
how do I go about never seeing a spider? And I say, well, I mean, I hate to say this, but if you move to the Arctic Circle, it's too darn cold for them there. You really hardly will ever see a spider because it's just ice cold all the time. And you won't have hot, sweaty summers because you're in the Arctic
Yeah.
Circle,
Don't live in
if,
this area, California.
right.
It's
And
like,
that's what I say.
you're going to get
If
it.
you're living here, it's part of the deal. It's part of the
Yeah.
package. I had another one, made a point of texting me before their service. Hey, we've got a lot of spider webs, and we've got, can you really pay attention to those? And I said, absolutely, no problem. I must have brushed down 29, 30, different areas
Yeah.
where there was a lot of spider webs. And, I said, hey, I texted him back. I said, yeah, you weren't kidding. There was a lot on your wrought iron. Again, something with space between two items. So lots on the wrought
Could come
iron
back.
gate, lots. Yeah. Lots on the patio furniture because, hey, you got two legs. And then, of course, they get up underneath. And so the patio chairs, the wrought iron fence around their barbecue. They've got a couple of other things around the patio. And I, went ahead and brushed all those and sprayed everything nice and everything. And then a couple days later, it was, I'm very disappointed because I went out and I saw 3 webs that you missed. And I said, well, those could have come right back within an hour after I left, you know?
Yes.
And they said, oh, really? And I said, yeah, absolutely. And they said, so, what are you going to do about it? And I said, if you absolutely need me to, I'll try and drop an appointment in the schedule, swing back by and brush them down again. But just bear in mind, they will come back. They will come back, especially this summer with these temperatures. They're flourishing. And, the spiders take, up to 15 days on average to expire. Now, I said, that's
Yes.
the ones we worry about, the widows. They're the most susceptible to the products. And the reason being is they're neat freaks. They clean themselves more often than other
Yes,
species of spider.
absolutely.
Yeah. So I said that actually is a benefit to us because they are going to be the first to go. But again, it's not going to be within a few hours like an insect that comes across these products, And again, the products themselves are called an insecticide. They're not called an arachnicide. But yes,
Brilliant.
the
Do you know
arachnids are
what, Jeff?
affected.
They need to. That's absolutely brilliant. They need to understand this. This is not an insect. This is an
Yeah.
arachnid. It's a different
Yes.
genus and
Yes.
species of nature. And
Yeah.
as we said, as you said, the widows are certainly susceptible to some compounds, but there's other spiders that are not susceptible to these, and
That's
so
correct.
you've got to realize that you're not dealing with an ant, you're not dealing with a cockroach, a bed bug. You're dealing with
Right.
something that's very unique, and they need, in 24 hours, the web's back. Boom, done. Web is back, and they're multiplying, and they're doing the thing again. So, anybody out there, ladies and gentlemen, if you have spiders, it's about regular control. You're
Correct.
not going to knock a web down and then expect them never to come back. It does not happen.
And
So,
we've tried everything, over the
yeah.
years. I'm sure you've tried it as well.
Oh God, yeah.
We've sprayed an EC all over the web brush and let it dry, and then brush webs and stuff, thinking maybe a little bit of that transfer. I've tried it with even Demand CS. I know a
Yeah.
guy. He used to take his dust dispenser, his Gets gun, and put a little dust in the web, and then run that on everybody's eaves, thinking maybe that would work. I know another guy that used to switch over on the Pinstream nozzle on his B&G and get up there and hit all the little cracks and crevices up under the eaves because he was thoroughly convinced that would keep the webs from coming back. And, it may work temporarily.
Yeah.
But, and it's a thing you can do. But here's the thing I'm thinking. Now, if I'm going to go ahead and perimeter everything out and I'm working on all these crawling insects that I'm trying to keep, in check, but then I'm going to come back and make a second trip with a dedicated B&G with an emulsifiable concentrate in it, I think that's something that might end up being an additional charge because I'm going to spend another half hour doing that. And maybe that's a value add service we can think of. I don't know, just have to double check all of the rules and regs and make sure it's kosher to do so. But to expect that as part of regular pest control. And I even told this client, I said, I can't believe I'm going to say this, but I'm offering you a free callback for something that we just do as a value add or courtesy on our service. We're not a cleaning business. We're in the business of killing things, and we do a great job of killing things. But now you've got us pigeonholed as cleaners because you missed a couple of webs, and it's like, okay, well, what was more important to you, the 29 or 30 webs that I did get down, or just those 3 you noticed? Obviously, those 3 were of more importance. I said, but was that more important than me treating the perimeters very thoroughly and making sure that I got a real solid application down of the product? And they went, well, no, that's important too. And I go, oh, it's very important because think of all these different crawling insects. And now if I
was going to
eradicate all
say,
the spiders, yeah,
it's not just spiders. Think about
right.
it. The webs are going to come back, but it's more important that we deal with the ants, that we deal with other crawling insects, that we deal with potential cockroaches, with anything that's going to try and survive and thrive in those conditions. It's not just about knocking the webs down. It's actually, and at the end of the day, be a bit due diligent yourself. Get up once a
Yeah.
week, get out there and use a broom and brush.
That part, exactly. And I've told a few people that, and they said,
Yeah.
"Oh, do I need to do that?" And I said, some of our best clients do. Some of our best clients do that as a regular matter of course because they use their patio furniture because it can't stay
Absolutely.
117 degrees all day. Um,
Yeah.
Eventually, the evening rolls around, it gets down into the 80s, and it's actually pleasant enough to be outside. And the sun's not just air frying you. So that's, oh, the other one too, I will say they were kind of a flash in the pan, and they were about 5 years ago as well. A lot of ground beetles popped up. But then
All
that
right.
sort of
Okay.
sorted itself out as it tends to do. But a lot of people were,
Yeah.
what are these? And a lot of folks thought they were some type of roach. But then they sent a picture. And that's the other thing I always tell them. If you can get a picture, if you can put some in a jar or a bag,
Send
we can
it
get
to
a
us.
positive identification, with some kind of specimen or a photo of a specimen. And then I can put your mind at ease. Oh, hey, that's not a cockroach. It's actually a ground beetle. Well, should we worry? No, they're harmless, but they're plentiful. But just as soon as they pop up, another month, 2 months goes by, and you're like, oh yeah, I remember we had all those little black beetles all over the place,
You can deal with
and then
them.
they just sort of seemed to went away. Well, it may have been somewhat what I did to help kind of move that along, but it's not so much me as it was just a phenomena that sort of came and went.
And one of the things I want to, before we kind of finish off, Jeff, is let people know is we're talking about their expectations and what they should have. But remember that
Yeah.
if, ladies and gentlemen, if you've got an infestation of a particular insect, it's normal nature to know that there's other insects there that are a problem. Like if
Yeah.
you've got rats, you're going to have snakes. If you've
Yes.
got if you're mice, you're going to have snakes. If you've got cockroaches, there's going to be spiders. There's going to be other insects that's there. So you have to let us do our job and look at not just one problem, because one
Yeah.
problem could be connected to a myriad of problems. And so it's more important that we control everything for you to
Yes.
make your area safe, your business safe. And it's
And
not just
also,
about one little thing. It's about
we can monitor
the
things.
variety.
Yeah, I mean, and one of the things, when you were mentioning that leads to another thing, just old school knowledge, something I picked up along the way, maybe 15 years ago, really saved a client a lot of grief. Um, their ant problem was persistent, even with successful baiting campaigns. They were doing all the things, they were doing them well,
Wow.
but it just was unrelenting. So that told me, okay, there's something underlying going on here, and we
Yeah.
need to take a deeper look. I said, but here's the thing. We're not termite specialty. We're just general pests, strictly general pests. So let me refer your information over to a termite specialist. That's all they do is termite. Well, sure enough, the local termite guy, who's had great, rave reviews. Otherwise, we would never recommend him. And it was somebody,
Yeah.
a client of ours, turned us on to, but they're local, and then we got to meet him. And anyway, he goes out and he goes, "Wow, you know what? Good catch. What prompted you to send them our way?" And I said, "Well, the ant problems were just super persistent, and we did all the things. I mean, we hit the outside with Termidor, we baited, we used both
I
types of
love
gel bait,
Thermidor.
you know yeah, love Termidor. It's a great
I love,
product,
love
and sure enough, they did have an infestation of subterraneans. So all the places I could get Termidor into as a general pest guy, he could get a little bit deeper as a branch
Yeah.
3 termite guy. So he did some trenching, he did some rotohammer work, and he got the sub slab injections going. Well, they haven't had an ant problem since he did a treatment for
Really? Yeah.
subterranean, but he found evidence of subterranean. So I'm glad I saved that client from having more damage done. And they got with the termite guy. He did a subterranean termite treatment, which actually solved the ongoing recurring nightmare of ants inside this guy's house.
Exactly. And think about that, ladies and gentlemen. If you didn't have us doing your regular pest control on a regular basis, understanding the life cycles and the different pests that we deal with in the area, we would never have found that, and we'd never have brought our guy in. And in
That's
actual
right.
fact, what might be great, Jeff, is maybe one of our next talks, we bring our guy in and we talk about termites, and we bring him into one of our chats, and
I'd like to see if he's
we'll
open to
educate
that for
people.
sure. Yeah,
Definitely,
I
we'll
think that would be
educate
good
people.
because he could lend some insight on the branch 3 end of things. And,
Well,
there's
absolutely.
a lot to it.
Oh my God, yes, a really specialist field. Absolutely, we'll
Oh,
definitely bring
yes.
in. Well, Jeff, listen, we could go on and we could keep talking pests and
We
everything else,
really
but I think
could. I
this,
mean, we could just
we
nerd out all
could
day.
really go on. I think this is great. And ladies and gentlemen, we'll be back again probably. I want to say every week, but it's not going to be every week because we're really busy. And
Yes.
just be aware, we're here to help you. We're here to serve you. Have your
Yes.
expectations in check. We can deal with any pest you have because we have the knowledge and we have the people and we have the connections and everything else, no matter what it is. Just understand, keep your expectations check, and remember, you're not going to web, it's going to come back. So,
Right.
Jeff, thank you for being with us and having a great chat again. Let the guys, let everybody, all your customers and everybody out there know if they've got a problem to get in touch with Ash at the office and we'll deal with it and we'll get to you.
Absolutely, yeah, and bear with us. You know, it is peak season, and I mean, we have peak seasons every year, but this one is a doozy with these heat waves.
It is
really, I mean, it's got things really shaking and moving. But the vision for down the line is, you know, we're going to have more trucks on the road. We're going to have more technicians in tighter spots, and you know, now you may not have to wait a day or two for us to get out to you. You know, you may get that same day visit. You know, I mean, not if you're calling at 4:55, but maybe if you're calling at noon or a little before noon.
But you're going to get it done right, and that's the main thing.
Right.
And
yeah,
you've got to choose. What do you want? Do you want someone who's not dedicated, or do you want a small company who's totally dedicated to the customers? And that's what First Response Pest Control does for you guys. So no matter where you are, give us a call. And we'll be there. Just have your expectations in check. And of course, if you've got something that you don't understand, we're all about education. Contact us. Get in touch with Ash. Send us a picture. Let us know. We will find the answers for you. Guaranteed. Yes. And we will keep you pest-free as much as we possibly can.
Absolutely.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining myself and Jeff again. We can't wait to speak to you again. And we'll probably bring in our termite guy very soon as well. So let us know.
Sounds like a plan.
And keep safe out there and keep hydrated. God bless.
All right.